The fall season is in full swing, and Bridgewood life groups and growth classes are kicking off with it. All groups and classes are launching this week, so now is your last chance to get plugged in. Sign up at bridgewoodchurch.com/life groups or on the Bridgewood app before it's too late.
Ready to go public with your faith? Your decision to follow Jesus Christ is the most important decision you can ever make. Once we surrender our lives to follow Jesus, the Bible commands us to be baptized in water as a public declaration of a decision to turn away from doing things our way and follow Him. Next Sunday, September 17th, is your next opportunity to get baptized, and we want to celebrate this milestone with you. So hop onto the Bridgewood app or website to sign up today.
Life is full of battles. They're unavoidable. It's not a matter of if, but when. So the real question is this: how do we confront and overcome the battles that we face? Over the next several weeks, we're going to dive into some of the most famous battles in the Bible as we kick off a brand new series, Battle Ready, where we'll uncover and unpack successful strategies for facing and conquering our battles. It all kicks off on September 17th. You don't want to miss it.
Thanks again for joining us this week. For more information about anything you've heard today, please stop in the gallery and look for our connection team, or hop onto the Bridgewood app or website for quick updates on what's going on around here.
Whew. Thank you, Bridgewood. All right. I got a lot of preaching to do. Sit down. Oh, man. I'm so excited to be here. This is so fun. I get to do this for a living. It's ridiculous. I want to just share with you a little bit about me, because people like me, we just hate talking about ourselves. And so I've got some slides for you. Like they said, you want to pull that first one up. I joined the military when I was 17. We were in the heat of the Iraq War in 2004, and I just wanted to go join in the fight. And so I signed up. I wanted to be in the Special Forces. I had a 19 X-ray Cavalry Scout slot, and I was all set to go. And then I took the colorblind test, and I'm colorblind as a bat. Had no idea. You'd think I would have figured that out in third grade, but no. And they basically said the only job available to you is a chaplain's assistant. And I felt a little something just say, hey, I've got a plan for your life. And I became a chaplain's assistant and was in the ministry in the military while protecting the chaplain when we were in combat. So next slide, these are my boys that I deployed with, my brothers, spent every day together, and obviously photos have gotten a lot better since then. Next photo. And then this is us. We had a PR team with us when we were out in combat. So my job, whenever we'd roll around, because chaplains don't carry weapons in the military, I would be guarding them. So this is literally me doing my job, watching his back. You can't ask for a better photo. And so we were out meeting with governors, different mayors of different towns, building relationships in Iraq. They have a lot of respect for religion, obviously, and respecting our religious leaders. And so we would meet with their religious leaders. And you have to remember that in Iraq, we weren't at war with Iraq when I was deployed there. We were at war with the Taliban. And so there were a lot of really good people there that wanted to work with us and make things happen. So we'd go out on these missions, and I'd keep my guys safe. So I love to climb mountains. And that's Mount Kilimanjaro, 19,341. It's kind of like, why do you climb a mountain? Well, because it's there. And so me and my buddies, we climbed that. I'm kind of a fan of adrenaline, which you'll see in this next slide. So I'm into rally car racing. And so what you do is you basically you go to a dirt road that they block off, and it's 20 miles long. And you drive it at 30 miles an hour, and I'm the co-driver, and I'm taking notes of every single turn and every single detail of that road while the driver is telling me what he sees. So we run the whole thing at 30 miles an hour, then we go back and we run it at 150. And you're flying around turns and corners, and it's an adrenaline feast. I don't like it at all. And then sometimes, you have little accidents. So we were at a race 2 weeks ago, and I've never even been in a car accident. This is my first one. And we were coming around a corner. It was super muddy. We were going about 55 around this tight corner, and we just flew off the road into a tree. And we fly, and we hit this tree, and you kind of have your moment, and then Mark goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm okay. Are you okay?" And he said, "I'm okay." And then, and then we kept going, baby. So anyways, that was fun. What do I have next? Oh, and this is my beautiful girlfriend, Alyssa. Everyone say, "Aw." We were friends for a year, and then one day I looked at her and I was like, "I love you." And so we've been dating for about 3 months. We just went down to Havasu in Arizona, 10 miles in, 10 miles out. Slept in separate tents, amen. And yeah, amazing woman of God. I think we've got one more of her. Yep. That was with an iPhone. What is with technology? Look at that photo. Come on, Apple. All right, so that's my story. Let's give it up for great girlfriends who make life awesome. So I have a lot of things I want to get into this morning. I have such a fun word to share with you, while a powerful word. I know that not everyone in here is military, and so I want everyone to walk away with something today, amen? I want everyone, because my ministry is called Engage Your Destiny. And so I want everyone in this room to receive something from the Lord that you can take away and put into practice today and tomorrow and therefore on, amen? And so I want to start off with a story. I love stories. When I came back from Iraq, one of my best friends, his name was Joel, he joined the active duty and got sent over to be stationed in Korea. And Joel called me up. We hadn't seen each other in about a year. And he said, "Hey, Ben, we haven't seen each other. I miss you, brother. I'm stationed here in Korea. I'd love for you to fly over. If you pay for your ticket, I'll take care of everything else." Right? So I'm a college kid, I'm a military college kid, so I'm not doing that bad. The Army takes care of its military college kids. But anyways, don't have a ton of cash, so I can afford a ticket, but he basically said, "I'll give you a place to stay, I'll feed you, whole 9 yards." So it was over spring break, and I decided I'm going to fly over. Now, my mom is a travel agent. And so I tell her, I'm like, "Mom, Joel wants me to come over to Korea and see him. I've never been to Korea." And she said, "Oh, well, you have to stop in Japan. Japan is wonderful." And I said, "Sounds good." So she said, my mom booked me a hotel. She used a bunch of her travel agency magic points and stuff and got me a 5-star hotel in Japan. So she was like, I went to Korea, and then for the couple days, she booked me a tour to see Tokyo and stay in a hotel and get the whole experience. So keep in mind in this story, everything that has to do with Japan, my mother. Okay, so I go to Korea, have an awesome time with my brother Joel. We climb some mountains, work out, eat a lot of food. It's pretty much what military people do. And then went to Japan on the way back. So I fly into Tokyo, and I'm on a bus, and it's like an hour and a half drive from the airport to downtown Tokyo. And so we're on the bus, and I'm still dealing with a little jet lag. I'm a little tired, and we're coming in to Tokyo, and in Tokyo, there's has anyone ever been Japan? Not one? You guys got to get out of Clarkson. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right, brother. All right, my man. And so you guys have no idea if the story's even true. All right, anyways. So we come into Tokyo, and now in Tokyo, there's just a lot of water coming through it and random little rivers. So there's a lot of these bridges to get over just these random because it's just a real watery area. And so we're coming over this bridge, and all of a sudden, traffic comes to a stop, and the bus that we're on just kind of starts going like this. And I'm like, And then it starts just swaying back and forth. And I'm looking around, and I'm going, is the bridge moving? Is there a ship coming through? What's the deal? And then the bus starts just shaking out of control. And it starts going up on ends. And literally, I'm looking, and everyone in their seat is flying into the seat. So I end up in the guy's lap next to me. No one speaks English. Probably a good thing. And then it swims back, and I end up flying back into my seat, hit my head. And as we're coming back, I look out the window, and the buildings, there is glass falling and shaking as these buildings are moving. And I knew what was happening, but I couldn't really articulate it, because whenever I've been in a handful of life or death situations, you know what's going on, but you're kind of in shock. So you don't really know. And we're going and everything, and then the bus just kind of slowly stops swaying, and then it comes to a halt, and everyone's just shaken, and then traffic starts moving. And so we're driving, and we're getting off the bus, and there's just tens of thousands of people in the streets, just everywhere, and it's complete pandemonium. We're driving through, and we get off. We walk off the bus, and it's like a scene from Titanic, man. Like, they're throwing bags, and people are running everywhere, and pursers are, like, yelling at everyone trying to get them, and I'm standing there, and I'm going, what is going on? And then I don't know how, but I found one guy who spoke English. And I don't know why I asked him this, but I walked over to him, and I said, hey, what are all these people doing in the streets? And he said, well, because of the earthquake. And I said, right, the earthquake. And as the words left my mouth, like a 7, because this was you guys remember the nuclear reactor, massive, largest earthquake in like the world's history. So I was there for that, okay? So there was like 9 point something, and then like a 7 point, which is a huge aftershock came, and it was like the earth was a hula hoop. The only way I can describe it. Moving, and I had to just keep my balance as the world was moving under me. Unbelievable. So that happens. I'd go back to the person, I'm like, man, what do I do? And he said, well, you know, your hotel is only like a mile this way. He said, our buses aren't going to be running for several hours. I can give you directions, and you can just be on your way. And so I said, great, let's do it. And he gives me my bags, and I start walking, and I'm walking for about 20 minutes, and I'm following his directions to a T, and I come to a dead end, no hotel. So I'm like, oh, geez. So I look around, and I just prayed, and I said, you know, Lord, I don't speak Japanese, but you do. And I don't know where I am, but you know. So just give me a hand here. And like I walked a little bit further, and then I just see this map. And apparently they just have these maps up of like downtown Tokyo. So I go over, and I look at it, and I kind of like figure out a few things, and I go a couple streets over and realized I had missed a turn and went up, and then I see my hotel. Ah. And so walk into my hotel, and they're like, so it's a 5-star hotel, so they're super, just freaking out over everyone. And again, another scene from Titanic, people are in their bathrobes, coming down from the rooms and stuff. And I walk in, and people like come over to me with like bottles of water and like, sir, are you okay? And I'm just like, I am now, And so they come and they take us in, and then they're just making sure we're okay and talking to us and everything and getting us water and coffee. And so we're standing and we're waiting, and I meet some people that are from Minnesota, which is where I'm from. And the guy had a Twins hat on, so I was like, okay. And we talked some baseball, and we're hanging out, like, did you see what happened, whatever. And so then they said our rooms aren't going to be ready for several hours. And so this is about noonish, maybe 1, and military people are used to consistent, large, hefty meals, like all throughout the day. Like we could be on the worst mission in the middle of nowhere, and God help us, we're going to have a good meal. Forget the Marines. They suffer. Army guys don't. We get fed well, okay? So I just don't do well with not eating. Like, it's severe torture. So it's 1 o'clock, and I'm dying without having a bite to eat. And so I start going around to all the restaurants, and there is nothing to eat because the wait list is like 3 hours. So I can't get into any of the restaurants. So I go back to the hotel. I'm like, I got to get something to eat. Like, where could I go? And they said, well, there's a 7-Eleven down at the bottom of the hotel. So I go down to the 7-Eleven, and I walk in, and I'm telling you, it's like a zombie apocalypse hit. You couldn't buy a Q-tip in this place. There was nothing. So nothing on the walls. There's no food. There's nothing to drink. They because people panicked, and they couldn't get off the Tokyo Island that we were on, and so they just went and bought everything. So I couldn't get anything to eat there. And now I'm coming back up into the hotel, and I'm really starting to get upset. And I'm walking up this escalator, and I see one of the guys that I was having a conversation with earlier, and he's in this 3-piece blue suit. Glass of red wine, totally looks out of place. Like, dude, what happened? And he goes, hey, man, how's it going? And I'm like, not good, just in rough shape. Like, I can't get anything to eat. The 7-Eleven has nothing. There's 3-hour waits at the restaurants. I got to get something to eat. And this guy just kind of smirks, and he goes, come with me. This is like Alice in Wonderland stuff. And so we go through like this area, and then we go back down these escalators, and we go into this huge hall that has all these banquet rooms that are closed. Walk over to a banquet room, and he said, just give me a minute. And he walks in. He's in there for like 5 to 10 minutes, which felt like an eternity. And then he came back out and he said, we would love for you to join us. And I'm like, okay. And we walk in, and it's this massive buffet, like everything your heart could ever desire. Huge wine bar, which I didn't partake in, tons of food, and all these people, and then these like Japanese people singing karaoke. I'm like, am I in Alice in Wonderland? And so, you know, we sit down, and of course I just go over and get a huge plate of food and sit down, and then I find out that these are these Japanese senators, or like they have a different name for them, but basically what would be like senators and congressmen, and they couldn't get back to their, you know, baller status mansions or whatever, so they rented this hotel, they rented this banquet space so they could just eat and drink and party until the earthquake was over. And I got to hang out with them, and I sang Journey and crushed it. with the elite people of Japan. And so, awesome experience. And then went up to my room. My room was ready later, and then got out of Japan and everything. So the funny part of this story is when I got in to my room, I thought, oh my gosh, I gotta call my mom. So I call my mom, and it's the middle of the night in Minnesota, and she picks up the phone. Hello. Mom always answers. Moms always answer, right? God bless moms. And she answers the phone, you know, hello, and I'm like, hey, Mom, so I just want to say that there was a little bit of an earthquake. I don't want you to freak out, but everything is fine. I'm at the hotel. Everything's wonderful. And she goes, oh, okay, hon, so how's the hotel? So she wants to hear about the travel part. So we talk for 10 minutes, and love you, Ma, bye. So in my mind, I have checked out, I've called Mother. Mom wakes up, turns on the news, catastrophe in Japan, earthquake in Tokyo, nuclear reactors are disrupting, like the whole country could fall apart. And my mom's like, oh my God! And so she's freaking out, and I'm not calling home because I've already called Mom. So for the next 2.5 days, and then I didn't call home, and then I checked Facebook, and my mom is posting on Facebook, starting prayer chains to help get her son home alive. And I'm fine. So I call my mom, and, you know, she answers the phone, and I'm like, hey, Mom. She goes, Ben! And no, we had our moment, and everything was fine. So for the young people, call your mother more than once in the middle of a catastrophe. I tell you this story to say that God has a buffet of promises in the middle of a crisis or heartbreak if we will just turn and trust in Him. I want to talk to you today about how to get to those promises. Amen? So in Acts chapter 9, we are introduced to a man named Paul, who was named Saul, and he was the modern day ISIS. Now I want you to fathom that. Paul, who wrote 13 books of the New Testament, and it's like the hero, one of the major heroes of the faith, was a modern day ISIS member. Might change how you take a look at ISIS through the lens of God. Just planting that seed. And he is on a mission to kill Christians. And they honestly don't have an idea as to how many Christians he actually killed. It could be in just the tens of thousands of how many Christians Saul killed before he was converted to Paul. And Paul is on a road traveling, and a beam of light appears, and it's an angel, and Jesus is with him, and he says, Saul, why are you persecuting my church? Why are you killing my church? And Paul goes blind for 3 days. And he's taken away with the people that he's with, and after 3 days, he didn't drink anything, he didn't eat anything. And then the scales, what was on his face, on his eyes, they literally fell off. His blindness was taken away from him and he could see. And he began to believe in Jesus and follow the Christian way. So one of the greatest conversions of all time, okay? And what happened next is so fascinating because the church is scared to death of Paul, and they don't want anything to do with him, and they won't embrace him. And so Paul is trying to be like, hey, I'm one of you now. I'm not going to kill you. I'm really sorry for killing so many of you. Can I join your crew? And they won't let him in. And so finally, if we go to Acts 11, 22, 25, we get this guy named Barnabas, and he comes into the picture. And the church kind of lets Paul in, but they really don't trust him, and it's just kind of this like awkward relationship. And it says, then the news of these things came to the ears of the church in Jerusalem, and they sent out Barnabas to go as far as Antioch. When he came and had seen the grace of God, he was glad and encouraged them all that with purpose of heart they should continue with the Lord. For Barnabas, for he was a good man, full of the Holy Spirit and faith, and a great many people were added to the Lord. Then Barnabas departed for Tarsus to seek Saul. So Barnabas is like, I'm going to go get this guy. I want this guy. Give me the person that no one else wants. Is this making sense? So we're getting an idea of what kind of a guy Barnabas is. Now go to Acts 13, 2-3. Oh, yep. And so it says that as they ministered together, ministered to the Lord and fasted, the Holy Spirit said, now separate to me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them. Then having fasted and prayed and laid hands on them, they sent them away. And it says that they actually dwelt together for a year, Paul and Barnabas. They spent a year together. Then after that, in Acts 13 and 14, they go to Cyprus, they go to Iconium, they go to Lystra. And it says that they are imprisoned, that there's people wanting to kill them. There's actually a point where Paul gets stoned to death, and then he gets raised from the dead. Like actually stoned to death. So you have this journey that Paul and Barnabas are going through. And actually, as Barnabas is with Paul, their persecution is increasing on them, and yet Barnabas stays with him. What kind of character does that take? And then we get to a point in Acts chapter 15 where a huge dispute happens. And Barnabas' cousin is named John Mark, whose also surname is Mark. And Mark is kind of under Barnabas and also being raised up and being mentored and discipled. And Paul doesn't want to take Mark on this trip. He's saying he's not fit for the ministry. And it says that the argument actually became so sharp that they had to leave one another and go their separate ways. And which way do you think Barnabas went? Do you think he went with Paul or went with Mark? He went with Mark. And I want you guys to grasp this morning that Barnabas made a decision, and he takes a chance on Mark. He splits with Paul, and then he takes Mark under his wing. And this is the Mark who wrote the Gospel of Mark. The name Barnabas means son of encouragement. Barnabas was unchanging and unrelenting in his value and his passion for people. For people. And Paul wrote 13 letters of the New Testament, basically created the document for wow, my Bible scholars in college would be so proud of me. Basically creating the doctrine for Christianity that we now believe in today. Who was the catalyst for that? Who? Barnabas was. I'm willing to argue that if it weren't for Barnabas taking the leap of faith and going after a man that no one else wanted to be around or work with, we wouldn't have what we have today. And we wouldn't have the Gospel of Mark. We have 4 Gospels. One of them came from Mark. And who's the catalyst of all that? It's a man who gets very, very little praise. His name is Barnabas. People. We have an individualistic culture. We value praise and applaud independence. I don't need anyone. I'll do it myself. And it's killing us. It's killing us because we want to be alone and we want to do things on our own. It's a pride. And these things are not helping. They're only making us more individual, creating things on our own, doing things on our own, not calling people, only texting people, losing that human interaction, that connection. And do you guys realize that everything, the shirt you're wearing, everything that you have, your house, everything, none of it's going to be with you for eternity. None of it. Do you know what you're going to have for eternity? People. So you should start getting conditioned for it now. You look at how a person made an impact in another person's life, and you begin to see how it can totally change your destiny by being around people, and being around people who are ahead of you, being around people who are behind you. We have to get a community mindset. And it goes against everything that we do. In this time, in first century Palestine, people lived on top of each other. They were constantly around ourselves. And now we create our own kingdoms where it's our place, our territory, our home, our 4 bedrooms, our garage, our everything. And the fence says, keep out, beware of dog. Come on. And we wonder why we're depressed. In the last 10 years, alcoholism has risen in America by 100%. It's doubled. Americans are depressed because we're alone and we're isolating ourselves. And it all comes from a basis of hurt. Hurts make us want to get away from people. We need people. When I was, let's see, it's 10:15. How am I doing on time? We're good? When I was I go to a church in Minneapolis a lot like this one called River Valley, amazing church that I love being a part of. And I started going to this church because I needed more community with people my age. I needed more community. And Pastor Rob gave a sermon at the beginning of the year in 2016 called the Go Series. He gave that sermon, and it was all about going after what God has for you. Isaiah 6 says, "Here am I, send me, I'll go. Whatever you want, God." And it was a few months later, and God just started stirring something in me, and I was in the business world, and I was seeing so much success, and yet there was this gaping in my heart of, man, I'm just not doing what I was put on this earth to do. And it didn't happen overnight, but it just over a couple months, it just started stirring more and more and more. And then on February 3rd, I woke up one morning, and I got in the shower revelations, anybody? And I'm just like, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And I heard in my heart, can't explain it, as loud as I can hear my own voice right now, I heard it's time to go. Go. And to me, that meant quit your job and start a ministry. Quit your job and start a ministry. And I went to the office that morning and I quit. And I decided that we're going to go on this journey. And I really wanted in my ministry to work with broken people, people that are hurting. I love being around broken people and helping them. And so I started a youth ministry, which is not what you're doing today, Ben. I get it. I started a youth ministry, and I was about 4 months into it. I had started my nonprofit. I had gotten my 501c3. I had gotten a board around me. We were moving in that direction. And then one night I had a wildly vivid dream, as real as this, that my youth ministry was a complete failure. I would go to speak at youth conferences, and the whole group would get up and walk out when I'd be speaking. I'd be sitting over here, and the band would be playing, and they were supposed to play for 30 minutes. They'd play for 2 hours. They'd just go and go and go because they were trying to defy me. Caleb, I love you for stopping playing. And then I'd be on college campuses, and riots would ensue just because I was there. And then the dream changed, and I was looking into a video camera, and I was asking veterans and their families to send me their stories, to share their burdens with me. And sitting at my feet was this exact bag, and it was overflowing with tens of thousands of letters and stories from vets and their families. And I woke up at 3:30 in the morning, wide awake. And I was laying there, and the verse that came to my heart was Galatians 6:2, and I didn't have it memorized, but Galatians 6:2 actually says, I can't get over it, carry one another's burdens and you'll fulfill the love of Jesus Christ. I carry this bag with me everywhere I go. And I knew what God was calling me to do. I knew it. And so I bring you this message today. If you look back on my earthquake story, when I was alone and doing things on my own, I didn't get very far. I couldn't get anything to eat. I couldn't find what I needed. I was in distress. I was struggling. But it wasn't until I connected with other people that the shift happened, that the change took place. That's when everything shifted. And so, the power that people can have in our lives. And so we're going to do something really special this morning. There are military people in here who have a burden that you're carrying. There are non-military people in here, and you have a burden that you're carrying, and there's something that's getting in the way of you fulfilling your destiny. And I'm here to tell you that community and being around other people is the key. It's community. And it's how you're truly going to see God move in your life. But in order to get to that stage, we have burdens that we have to lay down. There's financial burdens in here. There's physical burdens. There's people with pain in their bodies. There are issues in this room that have to be dealt with. On day 6 of my combat tour, we were an aviation brigade, and so if anyone needed a taxi cab ride in Iraq, or called in gunships, or needed a medevac, that was what we did. And it was our 6th day, so we hadn't even replaced the unit that we were there to replace. One of our Chinooks went down, and 7 of our guys were killed. It happened so fast. And it was one of the most devastating experiences of my life. And it doesn't just go away. But the ability to continue to move forward in life and do what God's called me to do is there. But there are military burdens in this room that I want to invite to be laid down. There are also burdens from non-military people that I want to invite to lay down. So we are going to move into a time of ministry. We're going to skip the video for sake of time. I'd like to ask the worship team to come on up, get in place. We're going to move into a time of reflection. What I really want you guys to do is to put your cell phones away and give God some time to speak to you. Let's not be in a hurry. We're always in such a hurry. Let's slow down for a minute. Because every single person in this room has something that is weighing on you. Maybe it's something from your past, from your family. You have something that's holding you back, and you need to lay it down, and you need to get prayer for. You need to get prayed for. God is here, and He is flipping ready to move in your life. Like, let's go, baby. So we're going to have prayer team leaders up here. Worship band's going to start playing, and this is going to be your time to reflect. And when you're ready, I want you to write down what's on your heart. And if you're a military person, if you're a veteran, I'm going to invite you to come and put your burden in my bag where it belongs. Someone else carrying this burden with you. And if you're a non-military person, I ask that you would just come up and you would just lay it at the altar. This is for everyone this morning, whatever you're carrying. There's a power when people come together, and there's a power when people decide to believe in things that they cannot see. Do you have that 2 Kings verse, brother? There's a story from 2 Kings where Elisha is with his servant, and they're up on this hill, and they're in a fortress, and they're together, and they come out one morning, and there's an enemy that's there to kill them, and they look out and they just see a vast army. I mean, like epic movie situation where there's just an army there to destroy them and kill them. And the servant just starts freaking out. And Elisha prayed. He said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. Then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. Next verse. And when the servant of the man of God arose, we missed. And he says, do not fear, so here's the key. Do not fear, for there are more of us than there are with them. He says, don't fear. There's more with us than there is with them. Opens his eyes, and he sees chariots of fire. Angel armies there to protect them. And many of you, with the situation that you have in your life, you feel like the demons that come and haunt you at night, the times when you can't sleep, the burdens that you're trying to carry, you feel like those are the demons, like the power, and that's all that you can see because that's all that's in front of you. But I'm here to encourage you and to pray and to speak into your heart that there's more for you than there is against you. That the God of angel armies is here for you to move in your life, to help you engage in your destiny, and to lay down a burden so that you can connect with your community and fulfill what He has for you. This is real. It's power. And it's alive. It's completely changed my life. So either I'm nuts or it's real. There is more for you than there is against you. So I invite you right now to take some time and reflect. When you're ready, bring your burden up to the front. I command you to be strong and courageous and to come and lay down whatever's on your heart. Military people in my bag. If you're not, lay it down just to the side, and then let's receive some prayer and let's have an incredible time in ministry this morning. Thank you so much.